Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and this time we're going to take a look at Phantom Blade Zero for a little bit. So we reacted to the Phantom Blade Zero, to the trailer a little while back, and then during Gamescom we reacted to some footage, some gameplay footage of it, where they showcased some of the boss fights, three of the boss fights that you find in game. I think it's a really amazing game. It is a Souls-like game, which is somewhat like Sekiro, which draws inspiration from Sekiro. It has a very, Japanese samurai feel to it, kind of like more like a Ronin type uh, feel to it, right? Your character and all that, with the straw hat and everything. But yeah, so that's what pretty much the game. I don't know much about else, but so there's this YouTube channel by Fextra Life. So apparently during the Tokyo Game Show, he managed to get his hands on Phantom Blade Zero, and apparently he got to play a new difficulty mode for the game, which is extreme mode, and he kind of like made a video about it. So we're gonna check it out, and we're gonna like kind of like see what his input is on the quote unquote extreme mode, and like yeah, we're gonna even like share our thoughts as well. So yeah, let's just jump right into the video.
In this Phantom Blade Zero video, we're going to be taking a look at the extreme difficulty of the game that was added during Tokyo Game Show's demo, which I recently played a couple days ago in Japan. And this is absolutely absurdly hard. I had mentioned in our previous video that Phantom Blade Zero was a little bit on the easy side. Well, when playing the extreme difficulty, that is no longer the case. So we're going to get into that in just a second.
I'll say this: I don't think any Souls-like game, like I don't think anything. I don't think you could say any difficulty in a Souls-like game is easy. But I guess it just depends if you played way too many Souls-like game. I guess then you'll find it easy. But yeah, yeah.
Second, you may notice that this gameplay footage looks familiar. These are the same three bosses and area of the game that you saw in the Gamescom demo.
New difficulty
This
option
time
and
we're
two new
gonna be
melee
showcasing
weapons.
most of it on the extreme difficulty with some comparisons to the hard difficulty, which I also recorded, and also showcasing two new weapons. One of them is a curved sword that kind of attacks quickly like you might expect it to, kind of allows you like quick slashes, and even seems to have a bleed effect that triggers if you hit the enemy or boss enough times, as you'll see like a huge chunk of their health rip off with this like bloody explosion if you
There's
hit
a
them
bleed
enough
effect,
times quickly.
the big gush of
So
blood.
that's been added, and then there's also like a dual circular blades kind of paired weapon that attacks very, very quickly. And when you finish off your combo, sometimes you can even throw those.
What are those, like
over distance,
glaives?
so if you
Chakras?
dodge
I think you call them
backwards,
chakras,
you
right?
can, like, still put in damage into the boss from a good distance away, which is really nice. They also showcased a new ranged weapon, or at least one that I didn't notice was in the previous demo, which is like the dancing lion, which allows you to kind of put on
These
the
kind of
dancing lion helmet
range
and
things,
just,
like
emit
it's
fire
never
and
it's
all
never easy to
different
use it
directions
against
to kind of
bosses.
point the
Maybe like
direction
groups
you
of
want the
enemies,
fire
like
to blow,
mobs,
and it's
but
probably pretty good
it's
with
never easy to
multiple
use it
enemies,
against
I would
bosses.
imagine. Although I didn't manage to use it super effectively in my time playing.
Because a lot of these
didn't give
attacks
it a
do
lot
not
of
stagger
thought to it.
them.
Okay, so moving on to the extreme difficulty.
Normal, hard, extreme. I think games like these, like what I feel like is like these Souls-like games. I don't think they need to have a difficulty level. I think there has to be just one complete difficulty level throughout. Uh, and that has to be just the one and only difficulty level. And how players introduce challenges is that people like streamers, players, gamers, they'll just invent challenges themselves to up the difficulty, right? Like you see a lot of this in like Souls games, in Elden Ring, in Black Myth Wukong as well. They do not have a difficulty, but what they do is they put restrictions on themselves. They introduce challenges like no summons, no special vessels in the case of Black Myth Wukong, and they up the ante and they introduce, because what difficulty levels in these kind of games do is they create an unnecessary division among players, right? And like people will be like, oh, you're not playing it the correct way or something like this. You just played normal. I don't think like that's fair, right? I think they just need to introduce a single difficulty level, because once again it's a mindset thing, right? Like the minute you see that you're on hard difficulty or something, a lot of people, they just automatically think it's difficult. But no, it's just a matter of just getting used to uh just getting used to like in certain boss fights making minor adjustments and things like that. So people just need to automatically get used to it without having this putting a label on it. People can like eventually, like even myself, right, a lot of difficulty levels, like I used to like way back then when I used to game, I used to be a little bit afraid of going on higher difficulty because I felt like I didn't want it to be too stressful. But once I just kind of like started forcing myself, it's just a matter of just playing it on the difficulty and just getting used to the game, right? It'll be stress, it'll be hard at first, but you get so used to it, like it just becomes easy automatically. And yeah, just putting these labels here is what prevents people from actually, playing on hard because they feel like, or they're not, like they can't do it or something like that. So I feel like they should not introduce difficulty, just keep it at once, just keep it at whatever level it is, and just make the game that way. Like if you finish the game, everyone can be proud of themselves, like saying that they finished the game, right? That should be an achievement itself. Like I don't like when people like downplay someone else's, like accomplishments by saying, oh, but you just did it on a lower difficulty. I do not think that's fair, and I think they should just remove difficulty. Like that's just my opinion on difficulty, right? I think everyone should be able to play the game on the exact same pace and level, and then it's just a matter of just adding added challenges afterwards, and then people can do whatever they want with that afterwards. So that's what I feel. I feel like they, like it should just by default just be an extreme or hard or whatever, and then like don't even mention this, and then yeah, challenges can come later on.
This is a setting that the creative director told me will not be unlocked by default and will be unlocked after playing through the game once. So this effectively
I hate it when they lock difficulty settings behind like the completion of a game. Like I want to jump into the game on the hardest difficulty. That's what I do in a lot of game, because once a lot of games, once I'm done with the playthrough, and if the game is not interesting enough, I cannot be like I want to play the highest difficulty. But if the game is not interesting enough, if I feel like the replayability is not that good, like I cannot be bothered to like start on the hardest difficulty again and do the game again. For some reason, like sometimes I can't be bothered doing that. So I hate when the lock difficulties levels behind the game completion.
could be considered your new game plus difficulty if you move on to it. I don't know if there's a new game plus, but this difficulty won't be unlocked until you play through the game one time, so you're not going to be able to start off with extreme. So there are some things I noticed about extreme, and then there are other things the creative director mentioned to me while I was playing. And first of all, it seems like the parry timing for the blue flashes and the dodge timing for the red flashes is much tighter. Felt like it was more difficult to pull these off and get the slowed time effect. And a lot of times I was just outright trying to just get a deflect off at all or get a dodge off at all, and instead of trying to time it perfectly, or a lot of times I would just die to these bosses anyway. Secondly, the health pools and damage that these bosses do doesn't seem to have been increased. And when I was talking with the creative director of the game, he mentioned that the difference between hard and extreme isn't the stats of.
Um, yeah. So some games, in higher difficulties, they buff the bosses, they buff the stats up. As long as it's not a crazy increase, crazy diff between the stats of the boss from one difficulty to another, I think that's fine to do. But I hate it when they do things like reduce parry timings and things like that. Like once you're used to a certain like window, like a parry window or something like that, you're used to the timings. It's really difficult to relearn a whole new set of timings, right? It's really difficult. At least to me, it is, right? At least for me, I found it really difficult. Just trying to get used to a different set of timings and counts and things like that. There's a little bit of macro things that you need to put in your head. Like I find it like really annoying when like in a higher difficulty it's just a matter of like readjusting the minor things you need to do like all over again, right? That's why I say like they need to just put one difficulty level, so you just play the game on that and then be done with it. Once again, it's just my opinion. I think what they should do is like in harder difficulties, I think enemies, like I think the boss needs to just have like maybe one or two new attacks. That's over it. Not a whole lot, not a whole new range, a bunch of attacks. Maybe one or new attacks, kind of like catch you off guard the first time, and then like basically introduce a new set of challenges to you. Okay, I have another set of moves, and this is what you need to deal with now, right? I think that's how you kind of like work with it, like making the box like faster, more heavy hitting, giving you like zero window, like chain strings to the point where you do not have an open window to use heals on yourself, things like that. Like I hate it when they do that. Like the boss is like super hyper reactive, like yeah, I mean, like I hate when they do stuff like that, where they're like kind of like where the AI is reading your own input, right? Yeah, like that's just stupid.
Of the boss. It's not these things, it's the actual AI has been tweaked. And when you actually look at the gameplay of the boss in hard mode versus the gameplay of the boss in extreme, you can kind of notice a few things. The first thing that you're going to notice is that on extreme, bosses don't just let you attack into the back of them like repeatedly, like, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row without doing anything. So you can really rip off huge chunks of health in hard mode. But on extreme, they tend to turn around pretty quickly out of this and get back to attacking you. So you kind of got to be on the ready to go on to the defense
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very quickly at a
I
moment's
I don't
notice,
like
which you
that
can in this
that
game,
the
so it's not a
bosses are
problem.
more
So you can be
reactive.
comboing away and go immediately to defending, but you got to be ready for it. If you expect to fight the same way when you got bosses back to you, you're going to be in a bad spot.
It's like you have to
Secondly, it
like
feels
use
like
an
the
entire
window
different
to
strat.
attack these bosses is a lot less, meaning that they attack you more often, putting you on the defensive a lot more often, making you have to parry and dodge
String
their
some,
attacks more
yeah,
in order
exactly.
to win
I don't like
fights,
that they do
rather
this,
than you being to play a bit more
forcing players
aggressively.
to
You can
master the
still play
parry
aggressively
and the
if
dash
you're
mechanic
good,
inflict more damage.
but I feel like the vast majority of players, when they're playing on the extreme difficulty the first time, are going to be put a little bit more on the back foot, and they're going to have to get their parry timing down. They're going to have to get their dodge timing down a bit more, because these things will become more important in extreme difficulty. And then lastly, one of the things you'll notice, particularly on the last boss of this demo, is that he tends to do feints where like he'll spin and it looks like he's going to do an attack, but then he spins again and
Dude, I hate, like I cannot emphasize on how much I hate bosses that fake abilities. Like it is the worst, the worst experience ever. It is like so stressful. There was a lot of bosses that did minor fakes, like their normal strings include minor fakes in it in Black Myth Wukong. There were quite a lot. Yin Tiger, I think, was the one that abused a lot of this. He did so many fakes, like, fakes, but his fakes were more in a sense like it has a slow startup where you feel like, okay, the attack's just about to come out, but he still delays it a bit. He delays his attack. That's not fake. He more like delays his attack quite a bit, where you think it's gonna come out, you dodge, and then he attacks once you're out of your dodge. Yeah, but I think there were a few more like in Black Myth Buddha that kind of like more like, okay, I guess it was I guess it's wrong. They delay attacks. They delay attacks quite a bit more, not fake attacks. But yeah, there were others who fake attacks, and dude, I hate bosses that do that. I want bosses to stick to an attack pattern. I don't mind if they're new, if they just do an extra bit of more damage. I don't mind that. But dude, if they fake attacks and they have, oh my goodness, dude, it just pisses me off.
then he looks like he's going to do attack, or maybe he doesn't attack, or he changes up his attack. And that's because the way the AI is designed in extreme mode is that the AI is actively determining what you're doing, what its positioning is, what you've been doing, and it's assessing, based on your health, based on your distance, based on all of these different factors, what its next move.
The boss AI in extreme mode reads the player's current movement to decide its next move on you. Oh my goodness. He's oh my goodness, he's reading your attack. He's reading your patterns, and and the AI is going to make adjustments against your patterns. So oh my goodness.
Move should be.
I think I know exactly what's happening here. If it realizes that you dodge a certain attack and do an attack every like now and then, and if it reads that pattern, he's gonna adjust and make sure you don't get you don't get an opening like that next time, or something like that.
And it learns very, very quickly. So when you back away, for instance, to heal, it can determine that you're going to do that. It knows your health is low. It knows you're going to try and back away and heal. So if you try and create separation, it's just going to fling its weapon at you and hit you and interrupt you. And then if you try and heal again real quick, it's just going to do it again. It knows what you're
Oh my goodness. Like we do this a lot, right? Because we like in a lot of these games, we think like when a chunk of our health gets depleted, our immediate reaction is dodge back, like dodge away somehow. Most of the times is backwards, and then a quick heal, right? Use a quick heal. If this guy is reading the pattern and he knows like as soon as he does a big chunk of damage to you, you're going to just roll back and quick heal, he's going to punish that as well. That is that is dude, that's not, dude, that's just
trying to do.
annoying.
And so
Like,
you really have to like get behind a pillar to
that's not,
heal, or you kind of have to
in my opinion, that's not how you should increase difficulty. No, 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 no.
like adapt your strategy because the AI is really, really good. So generally what this means and what the creative director said to me while I was fighting is that the boss fights kind of end up on extreme difficulty being more like a fighting game where if you're
So what they're saying is it's going to be in like an what, like something like Mortal Kombat or Taken, I
playing on
think.
like the very hard difficulty of a fighting game like Street Fighter or something like that, the AI can kind of anticipate what you're going to do and you have to get better in order to beat it. And that's really what I had to do in order to successfully pull off these boss fights. And what I
Yeah, but in fighting games, you don't have a stamina bar. You can block at least. You can hold a block button for whatever, however long you need to. You can't do the same thing here. You can't block everything. You're gonna get staggered eventually.
what I kind of realized was that I was relying too much on parrying. I wasn't dodging enough. I was using my dodge too much defensively. And then I started using my dodge or kind of shadow step to move offensively. So I would start dodging through the attacks and attacking the boss. And the boss didn't seem to be able to know what to do with that as much because it's reading a dodge. And I think it thinks that when you're dodging out of an attack rather than towards an attack. And that worked out really well for me. And after I kind of put that together, I was able to successfully take down that boss. But it was very, very challenging. The last boss, I don't know how many times I died on in extreme mode. It was like, I want to say 15 times on that boss. I died a lot. And if you look at my playtime in deaths for the hard mode versus the extreme mode, you'll notice that it took me over double the time to finish. And I had like over triple
18 death count. 24. Well, if those were his numbers, ours would be quadruple that amount.
the deaths. So it is definitely much, much harder. And talking to the creative director and his team, they were telling me that the average person playing this demo would get through in about an hour with about 50 plus deaths. I managed to do quite a bit better than that. I have obviously played this a little bit before, so that kind of gave me an advantage. But that is a lot of deaths and a lot of game time for 3 bosses in a very small area of the game to explore to give you some idea of how difficult this is going to be. Anyway, I really loved the new difficulty mode. It was seriously rewarding when I would beat bosses, but it could also be frustrating. It's a bit of a double-edged sword because I actually started playing through again.
Dude, every game that has the like a really high difficulty always is frustrating. Rewarding but frustrating.
On the extreme mode a second time to see how I did because I was talking to some of the members of S Game and they were saying that because of the way the AI is designed, like each time you fight a boss, it's not always going to be the same because it's reacting in real time to what you're doing. So
The
if your
canon is
strategy
so
changes,
hilarious.
the boss's strategy changes and the attacks that it might do might be different. So I started playing through on a second playthrough, and when I got to the second boss, I really struggled with the second boss on the second time through, which I didn't in my first playthrough of Extreme because the strategy that I was trying to employ that I had learned on the final boss was not working on that boss, and I had to like kind of go back to the strategy I was using before, and I was trying to remember what exactly that was, and it was really, really tough. I ended up dying a lot more times the second time. So I definitely think it's going to be kind of a mixed bag for people where it could be very, very frustrating, but it can also be really, really fun and rewarding depending on what kind of player you are. Again, thankfully, you don't have to play this difficulty mode. This is unlocked after beating the game, so most people
See, now what happens there is like, see, that's the thing, right? Now he says that thank God you don't need to have to play the difficulty mode. Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Now when a person finishes the game, another guy is going to be like, oh, but you did not play it, but you didn't finish an extreme. I think that's just unfair. I think that's the reason why I feel like, there should never be a difficulty setting, especially in Souls like games, right? People finish the game, they should be able to finish the game and be say and just be and they should be able to say, I finished the game. It should not be like I finished the game on this difficulty. They shouldn't always have to justify what difficulty this is. I finished the game. There should be an accomplishment enough, and it should be an accomplishment that can be accepted. I finished the game. No difficulty. I finished the game. Finishing the game itself should be rewarding enough. And then afterwards, people can introduce, all sorts of challenges like, oh, I did it with no deaths, blah, 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 blah. But still, that does not undermine someone else's accomplishment of finishing the game. Now you add difficulties, like people will just downplay another person's attempt at finishing the game, man. That's what I've seen happen in a few instances. Like I've seen people argue about this, especially when it comes to these difficulty settings, and they're like, "Oh, but you played on this difficulty," and just to quickly downplay someone's accomplishment of finishing the game. Finishing the game is always an accomplishment of its own. Never mind difficulty. Finishing the game, like taking your time to finish the game, should should never be downplayed.
Probably won't even play it because I imagine most
I'm coming at this from a point of view not about difficulty. I'm coming at this from a point of view where people use difficulty to segregate and separate you know other gamers. I get it, people are competitive and they want to like stand above the rest, right? But I don't think there has to be something in the game, something that has to be toggled in the game, right? You play the same game, I play the same game, and the game is the same for the both of us. What should be different is what you choose to do. You can be like, oh, but I chose not to. I chose to try and beat the game without dying. I tried and do a no death run. Congrats. I finished the game. I can still be proud of me finishing the game. You did it with no deaths. Awesome. That puts you on another tier, I guess. But I can still be satisfied by myself. The many difficulties and people start throwing difficulty. Oh, but you did it on this difficulty. It doesn't count. Yeah.
people will probably play through on normal or hard, and I don't know how many people will play again after that on extreme. Obviously, the hardcore players will, but I don't think that's the majority of people playing this game. So that kind of wraps up my video on Phantom Blade's extreme difficulty. I'm really enjoying this game. The more I see from it, the better it's getting. I cannot wait for it to come out. I'll leave you here with a couple of side-by
I was looking at the gourd. It looks very familiar. It looks very similar to the one in Black Myth Wukong, the gourd system, the gourd healing system.
side videos of the boss fights on the hard difficulty versus the extreme difficulty, so you can see kind of the differences in the boss fights with no commentary, and you can just watch.
Let's try the boss comparison. Oh wait, hold on. So this is the first boss, right? Alright, let me see. Okay, so on extreme you can see the boss is a lot more aggressive. Like he really tries to quickly close the gap between the two of you. Oh wait, hold on. Let me see that again. Let me see that. Oh, did you see that? Did you see that? So the dodge window, when the red flash comes, the one on extreme difficulty, which is the one on the right side, so the one on the left is hard difficulty. If you look at the window, right, the one on the left side, the hard, the window is much larger, right? Because he stays in that red flash zone. The boss, like he takes a couple more seconds to land the hit, whereas it's a much shorter. I don't think that's what they should. Like difficulty should never, they should never reduce parry windows and things like that. Now look at this. When the red flash comes here, okay, the red flash starts. So let's see. One, two. See, did you see he slows down there? 1, 2, and like 2.5 seconds. So and this one goes 1, 2, and then go them. So it's like a half second difference, right? Because like a half a second he just slows down his downward strike and he just holds it mid-air, sort of like you can clearly see that happen here. 1, 2, half, like there's like a half split second difference there. Yeah, I mean the parry window is much shorter. Yeah, like he mentioned like earlier as well, a lot of times like in the harder difficulty, the more easier difficulty, you can get behind your enemy and just hit them in the back. Well, in this one, see, he keeps hitting the enemy in the back, but in extreme he's unable to get behind him. Like the guy quickly turns around. Dude, he just interrupt. Like that's the thing. Those kind of spells, those kind of like heavy spell attacks and stuff like that. Like, dude, bosses just find a way to just quickly interrupt those, man. No man. That's interesting. In this second boss fight, not even once I've seen a blue flash on this boss. It's never there. See, this guy, the one on the left side, has a lot of blue flashes. Like, he has an attack that's parryable. That one, where he swings the sword around his head. And this one, I never see it. See, that one? It doesn't have the blue flash. The one on the right side. Like, I can show it again. That's the overhead attack. And then... See, that has the blue flash. See, that one he just did there? No blue flash. Like, they don't let you parry it or something. I don't know. That is a bit... That's not fair, isn't it? I mean, like... It's like they removed the parry from it. Did they? Or is it that you can still parry, but you no longer have the indicator to help you? Is that what the difficulty level did? Let's take a look at the third boss. See, in all three bosses, you're able to like get behind them. Did he mention it before that in any of the extreme modes that you do not get blue flashes? Did he say that? Because I don't see anything in this boss as well. Did I miss it? Did I miss it in the first boss? Did I not notice it? Oh, you get it here. Okay, he did do one. All right. There's a lot quicker to close the gap. Yeah. Hmm. All right. Cool. I'll put a link to the video, Fextra Life's video as well. You guys can check it out for yourselves. But yeah, so there you guys have it. Phantom Blade Zero Extreme Mode gameplay. I can't remember if they've announced when this game is gonna come out. But yeah, anyway, the game will come out eventually. So yeah, we can get it then. Yeah. So, but yeah, as usual, I shared my thoughts on on difficulty levels in general in games. Games should have, especially in Souls like games, like where beating the game is the challenge, right? Where that is kind of like that's like some sort of a defined thing in the gaming community. Beating a Souls game is a challenge in itself, so it should never have a difficulty level. So people should not compare their playthroughs. Like, every playthrough should matter, and yeah, there should just be one difficulty level so that no one compares difficulty levels, and then players can choose to make it difficult by introducing challenges themselves, and that should be the dividing factor.